A warm welcome to you all for joining from around the world in this webinar. We are co-hosting it as ILO's Cooperative Social and Solidarity Economy Unit and WIEGO, Women in Informal Economy, Globalizing, Organizing a Research Policy Action Network. This is indeed a timely webinar. We timed it to be timely. We are midway into the second international United Nations International Year of Cooperatives 2025. In just 2 days, we will have on Saturday, the first Saturday of July, and this year on July 5th, we will be celebrating the 103rd International Day of Cooperatives. And this webinar is also timed so that it comes shortly after the International Labour Conference in first part of June, where there was a general discussion and a resulting resolution on innovative approaches to the formalization of the informal economy. And the resolution highlighted the growing recognition of the role of cooperatives in the wider social and solidarity economy in advancing decent work. My name is Simel Isham. I will be your moderator for today. I head the ILO's Cooperative Social and Solidarity Economy Unit. I've also been a member of WIEGO for over a quarter century and currently serve on its board. That's why I'm especially happy that we are joining forces for this webinar and beyond. We start with a few quick housekeeping notes to help us have a smooth session. The contributors will be speaking in English and Spanish. Simultaneous interpretation is available in these two languages. So you can see the globe on the bottom of your Zoom screen to select your language. You can choose English or Spanish from there. We are recording this webinar, and so we can also make it available for those who registered but couldn't be here or who didn't even manage to register but would love to watch it and learn from it afterwards. To ensure the sound quality, all participants will be muted except the one who's presenting. For any questions, we would very much like to ask you to please use the Q&A, question and answer button at the bottom of your Zoom window, rather than putting your questions in the chat. This will help us organize the responses better because colleagues will be passing the questions on to the right people to address. And some of them will be addressed in writing with links if you need them. Others will be live during the course of the webinar, including and especially the Q&A session. And if we do not manage to answer some of these questions or there's some specific follow-up needed, we shall also do so after the webinar. And we would appreciate when you ask your question if it is a question that requires that kind of more elaborate follow-up to put your also email there. Through the session, the ILO and WIEGO teams members will be sharing relevant links in the chat, including the presentation slides, both in English and Spanish. So this will allow you to follow along the presentation in your preferred language, regardless of what language the speaker may speak. If you have any technical issues, please reach out to the colleagues marked tech support in the chat. And we have 6 speakers, including 4 country experiences from Colombia, Nigeria, Argentina, and India. So let me just start by a few opening remarks now that the housekeeping is in order. We are seeing converging global crises. These are intensifying vulnerabilities across the world of work, especially those in precarious, informal employment, women, migrants, own account workers. And even without these crises, emerging new crises, decent work deficits have been always most pronounced in the informal economy. And these challenges are structural, complex, and evolving as well. And root causes are also many and interconnected, including poverty, inequality, laws and regulations that are either inadequate or are not being complied with. Persons in vulnerable situations have often limited access to the quality education, skills, public services, and they're more likely to face discrimination, gender inequalities, and may also, in some cases, experience stigma, harassment, exploitation, particularly in contexts of organized crime, trafficking, especially as we see in the case of migrant workers. Yet, workers and economic units in the informal economy have agency and have collective agency, which is what we are focusing on in these 90 minutes today. Across sectors and regions, they're forming cooperatives, associations, self-help groups, mutual societies, social enterprises, and other entities of the social and solidarity economy. I want to just pause for a minute to uh, remind ourselves what we mean by the social and solidarity economy according to the ILO's tripartite definition. Adopted in a resolution on the topic in 2022. These are entities engaged in economic, social, and environmental activities to serve the collective or general interest. They're based on principles of voluntary cooperation and mutual aid, democratic and participatory governance, autonomy and independence, and the primacy of people and social purpose over capital in the distribution and use of the surpluses and or profits, as well as assets. They put in practice a set of values which is intrinsic to their functioning, consistent with care for people, planet, equality, fairness, interdependence, self-governance, transparency, and accountability. And the attainment of decent work and livelihoods. And this definition also recognizes that the social and solidarity economy entities operate in all sectors of the economy and aspire to the transition from the informal to the formal economy. There are multiple other ILO tripartite texts that address the relationship between informal economy and the social and solidarity economy, but we have a specific speaker on that, so I'm not going to go into it. Just to say that at the ILO, we continue working with our constituents and partners, including through multilateral, multi-stakeholder platforms like the UN Interagency Task Force on Social and Solidarity Economy, the Committee for the Promotion and Advancement of Cooperatives, and to advance on these issues. And today's dialogue is a part of such efforts, sharing the social and solidarity economy experiences of informal workers in the informal economy, why they form them, what they achieve by forming them, what remain as challenges to be overcome in sustaining these efforts, scaling these efforts. So I stop here and pass the floor to dear Federico Parra, Social and Solidarity Economy Specialist at WIEGO. The floor is yours, Fede.
Thank you very much, Simel. Well, for WIGO, for the ILO, and for many of the organizations that are here today, it is essential, and I will even say foundational, to affirm that the social solidarity economy is a key alternative for workers in informal employment to improve their working condition, access to some components of decent work like the social protection, and make a transition to formalization in the way that align with their interests and needs. In fact, Mansour from ILO will share with us this latest tripartite endorsement statement on this topic, which reaffirms its importance. But what does this actually mean in practice? How has been achieved? What challenges does it face? In this webinar, we will explore some of these learnings through a real-life experience, empirical evidence, and the practices of workers' organizations that have embraced and developed forms of the social solidarity economy. We will see, for example, how social solidarity economy addresses the specific economic needs of its members through associated work and the collectivization of resources, how it provides access to social solidarity-based finances, when the traditional bank closed the doors, how it creates supportive environment and solidarity services that meet needs ranging from food or childcare. We will also learn how organization structured in the social solidarity economy plays a political role, represent workers' interests in contexts where traditional trade unions are absent or just beginning to emerge. We will look cases such as support greater scale and sustainability. Our deep thanks and all our recognition to the organizations whose experiences will be shared today, and of course to our colleagues of the ILO Cooperatives and Social Solidarity Economy unit for creating this space. Thank you.
I'm nodding, agreeing, but it's my turn to speak. Thank you very much, Fede. And for these opening remarks, I want to now turn to our colleague Mansour Ameira, who's a social innovation specialist at the ILO and the COP SSE unit. He will contextualize the topic from an ILO tripartite text perspective. As Fede also mentioned, over to you, Mansour. You have 9 minutes, and I will remind you if needed when you have 1 minute left to wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you, Simel, and warm greetings to all. My intervention highlights how ILO tripartite texts have addressed the relationship between the informal economy and the social and solidarity economy, SSE. The resolution on addressing informality, adopted by the International Labour Conference last month, marked a milestone, coming 10 years after the adoption of the transition from the informal to the formal economy recommendation 2015, number 204. Next slide, please. The resolution reaffirms the importance of recommendation number 204 and recognizes that it has not yet been fully implemented. It highlights lessons learned and specifies measures for accelerated implementation. I would strongly encourage you to refer to that resolution. It is available in multiple languages. And what you can see on your screen is the organization or the higher level headings of that resolution. I cannot go through all of them, so I will only give you a few highlights. Next slide, please. The resolution introduces several novel elements on the topic of informality, on the role of new digital technologies and access to supply chains, on responsible business conduct, including due diligence, on wage policies, including living wages, and on supporting and coordinating just transition and formalization strategies to increase climate resilience. It also refers to developing statistical systems in line with the 21st International Conference of Labor Statisticians resolution concerning statistics on the informal economy. This expands the scope of the informal economy beyond employment to include the other forms of work, own-use production work, in particular, informal unpaid domestic work and care work, unpaid trainee work, volunteer work, and other work activities. These forms of work deserve more attention in addressing informality, including from an SSE perspective. Next slide, please. Recommendation number 204 calls for special attention to those who are especially vulnerable to the most serious decent work deficits in the informal economy. The new resolution of 2025 expands on that. It recognizes, and here I'm going to read direct quotes from it because they are quite significant. Own account workers, those in non-standard form of work, micro and small economic units, and certain sectors might be disproportionately at risk of informality, unquote. It specifies that, quote, women as well as groups in situations of vulnerability, including young people, older people, migrants, refugees, indigenous and tribal peoples, persons with disabilities, care and support workers, domestic workers, home-based workers, street vendors, recycling workers, and waste pickers, construction and mine workers, and rural and agricultural workers are often at higher risk of informality and face specific barriers to formalization. Furthermore, it calls for implementing targeted approaches for groups disproportionately affected by and at risk of informal work, as well as for workers in certain sectors, such as rural and agricultural workers, miners, construction workers, migrant workers, care and support workers, domestic workers, home-based workers, street vendors, recycling workers and waste pickers, and types of economic units, such as micro and small enterprises and own account workers, where informality remains widespread in line with relevant international labor standards. The reason I read these is because the detailed naming of the categories, although not exhaustive, is a valuable tool in ensuring that interventions respond to the needs of the diverse groups. Participants from several of these groups are present in our event today. Many have leveraged the social and solidarity economy to address informality. The new resolution reflects that. Next slide, please. The resolution says that, quote, the social and solidarity economy can complement other formalization pathways by providing workers and economic units in the informal economy with complementary structures that promote solidarity, mutual support, and shared decision-making. This comes as the third of 3 points under the heading of organization, voice, and representation of workers and economic units in the informal economy and inclusive social dialogue. The previous 2 points are on freedom of association and the right to collective bargaining, and on representative employers and workers' organizations. As part of an enabling environment to accelerate the transition to formality, the new resolution highlights that, quote, creating a conducive environment for sustainable enterprises, including micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and social and solidarity economy entities, can support the transition to formality by providing a level playing field and fair competition, and by improving access to land, finance, markets, and services. Moreover, in line with innovative approaches and good practices for advancing decent work through the transition to formality, leaving no one behind, the resolution calls for, quote, recognizing and supporting the social and solidarity economy workers and economic entities in the design, implementation, and monitoring of strategies and measures for the transition from the informal to the formal economy, unquote. Next slide, please. The recognition of SSE entities as providing pathways for formalization is grounded in a longer trajectory of international labor standards and International Labor Conference resolutions. The Promotion of Cooperative Recommendations 2002, number 193, specified that governments should promote the important role of cooperatives in transforming the informal economy into legally protected work, fully integrated into mainstream economic life. More recently, the 2022 International Labor Conference resolution concerning decent work and the social and solidarity economy mentioned as part of the definition of the SSE that, quote, SSE entities aspire to long-term viability and sustainability and to the transition from the informal to the formal economy, unquote. In the follow-up strategy and action plan endorsed by the ILO's governing body in 2022, transitions from the informal to the formal economy is one of the 5 priority thematic areas. We can trace the ILO's recognition of the role of SSE entities in addressing informality back over 8 decades. While the language of informality first appeared in an ILC resolution in 1979, explicit references in international labor standards to related contribution from SSE entities dates to at least 1944. Reviewing the tripartite texts enables us to identify a number of pathways through which SSE entities contribute to addressing informality. Next slide, please. I want to highlight 3 general categories of such pathways, each of which has been the subject of ongoing innovation by SSE entities and ILO constituents and partners in response to the changing world of work. First is the self-organization of workers and economic units of the informal economy into new or existing SSE entities, which contributes to decent work, economic democracy, capacity development, fair competition, and sustainable productivity growth. A 1990 resolution noted that, quote, cooperatives as an important form of association of self-employed producers should extend their role in strengthening the economic and bargaining power of otherwise vulnerable producers and in channeling assistance, including training to the poor, unquote. There are experiences from around the world in which the groups at higher risk of informality, as specified in the latest ILC resolution, have addressed decent work deficits and barriers to formalization through self-organization in SSE entities. The second category is about the contribution of SSE entities to the achievement of universal, adequate, comprehensive, and sustainable social protection. They can provide access to existing social protection systems for their members. They can directly provide essential services such as healthcare, maternity support and childcare, insurance, housing to their members, workers, and communities, thereby complementing national social protection systems. Moreover, where appropriate, SSE entities may carry out delegated administrative functions on behalf of public social protection institutions, helping to extend coverage and improve service delivery. Third, SSE entities contribute to preventing informalization, particularly during periods of economic disruption or enterprise succession challenges. Financial crisis and liquidity shortages or the retirement of business owners without succession can lead to the closure of viable enterprises with economic potential, resulting in significant job losses and informalization. By pooling resources, SSE entities enable members to collectively purchase and manage enterprises, ensuring continuity and the preservation of formal employment. This is only a brief overview of how ILO tripartite texts have highlighted the contribution of SSE entities to addressing informality while leveraging social and technological innovations. The following presentations will provide more concrete examples. Thank you.
Thank you for this overview, Mansour, of how distinct ILO tripartite texts have addressed the relationship between the informal economy and the social and solidarity economy. We are now turning to leaders of the organizations of workers in the informal economy to share their experiences on how their cooperatives and other social and solidarity economy entities have addressed the needs and rights of workers in the informal economy. Colleagues from Colombia, Nigeria, Argentina, and India will present their experiences that also demonstrate innovative pathways to formalization through the SSE. The first case comes from Planeta Verde in Colombia, Latin America. Marta Elena Iglesias is a legal representative and manager of Planeta Verde Waste Pickers Cooperative. Planeta Verde is a member of the National Association of Waste Pickers, the Latin American and the Caribbean Network of Waste Pickers, and the International Alliance of Waste Pickers. She will give us insights on how they're working with local governments to provide essential services. And Marta Elena, the floor is yours. You have 7 minutes, and if needed, I will remind you when you have 1 minute left to conclude.
Okay. Oh. Bueno, muy buenos días desde Colombia.
Hello, everyone from Colombia. Thanks, Simel, and thanks all of the brothers and sisters, all of the colleagues for this invitation. My name is Marta Elena Iglesias, and as Simel said, I'm the legal representative and founder. I've been for 25 years founder of a cooperative in Colombia. So we are part of the Colombian Social and National Waste Pickers Association. And in this short time, I would like to let you know how through the solidarity and social economy system, well, 25 years ago, Planeta Verde, an organization, was born in Colombia with the main objective, which was to satisfy the needs of the waste pickers. So this is a population that has been socially excluded and neglected by everybody else due to the vulnerability conditions and poverty conditions. So we had this key objective, and now, a quarter of a century later, we can proudly say that we are much better organized, and well, we can proudly say that we have come to 25 years with a key objective, And of course, we've had a lot of changes along our journey, but we have the same horizon, the same vision that inspired us for the creation of this organization. So we talk about our social basis, and right now the cooperative is made up of 106 families of waste pickers, and this is an area where there is a lot of diversity, but 40% of these members are women. 10% is migrant populations, regular and irregular. 55% are people older than 60 years old. And in general terms, I would say that 72% is a population that historically has been part of the informal employment. And I would like to highlight also that when we started, most of our members were part or were displaced by the armed conflict in Colombia, and 38% is also currently made up of these victims of armed conflict. And there's something important that I would like to highlight here for this session and for this quite important space, and which is how we made that jump, how we moved from working as informal waste pickers to being part of a cooperative. And nowadays in Colombia, we provide a public service. So that is something really important for us. And that is what we would like to highlight as a key function of the organization and of being together. I mean, if the Colombian regulations and the decree that allocated us as a public service provider wouldn't have come to us in that moment in which we were correctly organized and strong as regards our administrative processes, and where we had our government already strengthened, maybe it wouldn't have been easy to move from being informal workers to being part of a cooperative that provides a service. So this has been really important. Cooperativism has played a key role for us, and to be able to associate. I mean, we were local waste pickers that were trying to survive to become union leaders. I mean, very active in the national policies and also in the international policies. And there's something really important that I would like to share as well, which is the fact that Planeta Verde, even though it is a small organization, it includes social and solidarity actions that enable us to reach our objective, the one that we determined since the very beginning, which was to satisfy the basic needs of the waste pickers and to improve their life conditions, but not only the life conditions, but also the working conditions. There is a lot to say about this, but I would like to highlight 4 of the social and solidarity actions that enable us to grow and that also enable us to think and to speak up. Because for us, cooperativism goes beyond rhetoric. I mean, for us, that's action. So we talk about an informal credit system where waste pickers like ourselves, we didn't have access to traditional credits, but now we can have access to our own credit and savings system. Then we have food security. So if we go back to our main objective, which is to satisfy our basic needs, well, we do have this food security system using a solidarity food market. And here also we have popular education, which has been key to get to where we are right now. And all of this solidarity system has enabled us to reduce operating costs that was something that we couldn't even imagine some time before, specifically for waste pickers like ourselves.
Todo esto que les estoy diciendo no ha
All
sido
of this
posible
hasn't been possible, or we wouldn't have been able to do it by our own. We do have an articulation of different stakeholders, participation and support from different stakeholders that have really helped ourselves. And thanks to them, we have also been able to get to where we are right now. And I think that what's important here is the union power, to be organized as a union. We are a very strong union in Colombia. We believe in associations, we believe in organizing, and even if we have to articulate with the community, with private stakeholders, with different parties, we believe that the union power for waste pickers in Colombia is what has enabled ourselves to get to where we are today. Of course, we are not neglecting our cooperative figures' main access, and waste pickers are always in the core of our action. These complementary ways, of what I've said before, have a main axis, which is education for us. Education in all of its ways. First of all, the cooperative training, which enables us to reaffirm the trust and solidarity principles. Then we also have political training, which is quite important as well. We are not talking about party-side politics, but also we talk about union politics. Then we also need comprehensive environmental education, because when we start to recycle, if we take into account the recycling history in Colombia, it dates for a lot of years. So we used to do it to eat, to survive, to get food. But we came to notice that we were key parties and we were the central part of the waste picking chain. And that is really important for us. Then the education plans are always focused on the popular side, and all of the time we focus on the representation actions. And I would like to repeat this, because what's really important here is to have a collective union organization. We are a base organization, we are part of a regional organization that in turn is part of a national organization, and Simel said this at the beginning. We are part of a Latin American network, and now we are part of an international alliance. I think that there's really a lot to say, a lot to share. This is just a short summary of work that has gone for 25 years. And we are talking here about how important it is to talk about cooperatives and how, being a cooperative, an association, we have been able to come to where we are today, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do it. So thank you so much for inviting me to participate here. And I really hope that this will also be an inspiration for many others. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marta-Elena. It's always inspiring to listen to Planeta Verde's story, this quarter century story, multiple strategies, having waste pickers recognized as recycling workers through including public awareness campaigns, gaining legal protections, improved working conditions, but for members, also other innovations like gender inclusive rotating leadership. And as I was listening to you, and I learn every time, I cannot help but think that innovation is not a choice, but a necessity with the changing context, not just the growing pressures of climate crisis, but also changing demographics of cooperative members that you expressed in the beginning, like aging members ratio growing. So thank you for that. And we have shared in the chat lots of pieces, including WIEGO's most recent SSE practices of Planeta Verde, which our participants can read and benefit from. Our next speaker comes from FIVON in Nigeria, in West Africa, a solidarity savings and credit cooperative. FIVON stands for Federation of Informal Workers Organizations of Nigeria. And Gibenka Komolafe is the General Secretary of FIVON and a promoter of this solidarity saving credit system for social protection among rural informal economy workers. And Gibenka, the floor is yours for the next 7 minutes. I know it's short, but we appreciate you giving us an overview. Over to you.
Sir, you're muted. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Good day, everyone, and from whichever time zone we are participating from. I have only 7 minutes, so I will try as much as possible to just run through the film story about the social leveraging the social and solidarity economy to provide some very critical social protection services to our members. Like it has been said, cooperative guided by values of self-help, democracy, and solidarity, along with ethics like honesty and social responsibility. We try to reflect this in our operations in the multipurpose cooperative. A little history. The cooperative movement in Nigeria began in 1935, following a 1934 report by the British government. And this led to the formation of a huge cooperative movement in the western part of the country. And by giving back to apex bodies like the ANSE, or the Association of Nigerian Exporters Limited, the Cooperative Press Limited, and so on and so forth. It is important to highlight this to show that the cooperative movement is actually nothing novel in history of economic development in our country. Next slide, please.
Gibenka, maybe you would like to turn off your video because the connection is not very strong and it may help improve. Thank you.
Thank you. AFG, the Nigerian first registrar of cooperatives, highlighted the importance of the cooperative movement in cocoa production, which was the mainstay of the Western regional government before 1960, and how within very limited period of time, it organized 20,000 members into 300 primary societies, which were grouped into 12 unions, 9 of them part of the Association of Nigerian Cooperative Exporters, ANSEM. Up to the 60s, the movement significantly contributed to economic development, employment, and high quality production. Next slide, please. SACCOs and the Fee-1 experience. A savings and credit cooperative society or credit unions, as they are known in some countries, is a cooperative that provides financial service to their members, that is, members can save their money and borrow when they are in need. Like consumer cooperatives, the owners of SACCOs are at the same time the customer. That is, the people who save their money are also the ones that borrow from this type of cooperative. And the Fee-1 cooperative, multipurpose cooperative society, is actually modeled around this. It was launched in 2017 to deal with the challenge of the present need of our members to save on a regular basis, and with their pool of savings enabled to access basic social protection services such as health insurance, old age pensions, mortgages, equipment leasing, and affordable loans to promote their businesses. The cooperative society is driven with an electronic platform which enables savers to be updated each time they save through a mobile alert. This has helped to boost the transparency of the cooperative society as well as instill a lot of confidence in members. Next slide. So the Fee-1 experience since 2017 has been very varied. Perhaps the most important achievement has been the experience and insights we have gained into this saving service of Nigerians in the informal sector, and the potential to use these savings for sustainable access to social insurance. At first, savings were collected twice a month during Fee-1 meetings, But this period, this method proved ineffective. And so by 2019, we discovered that 37% of members had saved only 3 to 5 times in the 2 years, mainly due to irregular attendance and financial constraints. So it became clear that informal workers tend to save consistently only when visited daily by a thrift collector. However, traditional thrift collectors also pose risks because they may face theft or illness, or sometimes they also act dishonestly, thereby endangering member savings. There's also a lot of widespread skepticism towards cooperatives due to frequent fraud by some traditional thrift collectors. Next slide. So by 2020, the cooperative had gained some momentum because by that time we had reappraised our operational mode and actually appointed community cooperative organizers who actually went around to ensure consistent savings by members. However, the COVID-19 pandemic later that year worsened the situation, leading members, a lot of members to withdraw savings, while a few resumed afterward, that is after the lockdowns. However, we got some modest grants from StreetNet International, to which we are affiliated, and this helped us to actually target those who had been consistent savers before the COVID-19 lockdowns with some assistance. And of course, this helped a lot to achieve a rebound of the cooperative society. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So today, we have close to 3,000 regular savers with operations spanning 3 states, Lagos State, Osun State, and the Federal Capital Territory. And these are some of the services which we offer our members. One, a platform to save. This is very critical because it's not easy for informal workers to save. The income is very low and very regular, and it's barely enough to subsist. So it's take a lot of creativity and a lot of motivation to get informal worker to save on a consistent basis. It has also become a source of cheap credit. Credit in the informal sector in Nigeria is very expensive. It varies from anything from 60% to 200% per annum. But through our cooperative society, our credits charge only 10%, which is as cheap as it can get. It has also been a means of equipment purchase, especially for young members with easy repayment schedule. I think it's important to mention that we are also right now in partnership with GIZ, a German foundation, to actually get some of our members trained, and after the training, they are given necessary equipment for them to start work with almost 40% subsidy on the equipment, and then they pay the rest instrumentally through the cooperative. The cooperative society has also become a means of property acquisition. F1 is on a third phase of big land acquisition, which are then allotted to interested members, and repayment also is through the cooperative society. We also have a subsidized
Gibenka, we are having a very hard time hearing you, and I think this may be your last slide. So if you may allow me to. Thank you, Gibenka. Excellent. We get to see also the photos and.
To the Fuel Health Insurance Scheme. And there has been a lot of testimonies about how this has been so helpful for members when they get ill. The cooperative has also invested in solar energy products or the terrible power supply solar products.
We are not hearing you anymore, Gibenka. We're grateful for you for providing the valuable insights of how a saving and credit co-op can collectively manage risks, build financial resilience for its members, insurance-like support, emergency loans, health support, income smoothing, and considering that only 6% of Nigerian workers are covered by formal social protection. This model clearly is one step in filling a critical gap for millions of workers and economic units in the informal economy. So thank you. And the link to a WIEGO report on this is available. We know there are challenges to scale. There are challenges. So we hope that in the Q&A we'll get to reflect on those a bit together with the participants. Next, we welcome Natalia Zarza, a representative and a leader of a social community branch of the Union of Workers of the Popular Economy, UTEP, in Argentina. She's a promoter of the cooperative that supports the children's recreation and learning centers. She will tell us more about this Centros Infantiles de Recreación y Aprendizaje, and they are built with UTEP support to start addressing the care deficits faced by recycling workers in the informal economy. Natalia, the floor is yours for the next 7 minutes. Thank you. Are muted, Natalia. Unmute, please.
Hola, soy Natalia Zarza.
Hello, I'm Natalia Zarza. I am a worker of the popular economy. I am a part of a union that is the UTEP, the Union of Workers of the Popular Economy. It represents 500,000 workers. We organize ourselves to fight for our rights, to fight for our union rights. The UTEP is the union of workers from different sectors of the popular economy. I do textile work, but we also have waste pickers, land workers, public space workers, social and community workers as well. Every sector organizes itself in cooperatives. That is why waste pickers have their own cooperative, textiles workers have their own cooperative, and we are represented by a union. But the way we organize our work is based on our cooperatives, and it's guided by our cooperatives. I will tell you about the social and community workers' experiences. We've created care cooperatives, and this is how the CIDAs of popular economies, Children's Recreation and Learning Centers, that's the CIRAs of the popular economy. And the special thing about these spaces is that they are born out of the need faced by our workers. These spaces were thought and conceived and created by and for popular economy workers, particularly female popular economy workers. The first CIDAs were born in 2009, and they were born out of the need for the needs faced by female, particularly female waste pickers. At the time, it was a huge win because back then there were no such spaces offering to take care of children and the children of these workers who left their homes at 5 p.m. and went back at 12 a.m. midnight. So being able to create these spaces was a huge win because up until that moment, not there were no options, neither private nor public, for this kind of demand in the popular sector. It was a huge win and it had lots of positives. First of all, little boys and girls would not stay alone at home at night while their parents left for work. And also, these spaces helped reduce child labor because up until that moment, child labor used to be common because the male and female workers and waste pickers had no place to leave where to leave their children, so they had to take them to work. So being able to create these spaces, these children's recreation and learning centers, helped reduce child labor. Currently, we have 15 centers, 15 spaces in different provinces of Argentina, not just in Buenos Aires, which is the most central province, right, and city. We also have some centers in Córdoba, in Trelew, in Chubut, and in other provinces. And currently, these spaces are not only for waste pickers. The spaces were born out of those workers' needs, but now we have room for the children of construction workers, textile workers, social community workers. So being able to think about the specific demands of each worker's sector turned this into a huge success. Currently, we welcome 850 families of the popular economy. We provide a care, loving, quality space. We provide popular education. The workers in our centers are popular workers, and they embrace and contain the children. We think about families and their needs, and we work around that. Our spaces are working on demand and based on those needs. And you may be wondering what's so specific about the demands and the needs. Well, let me tell you, waste pickers, workers leave home during the afternoon and at night. So spaces, these centers open at 5 p.m. and then they remain open until midnight. For example, textile workers, female textile workers have to work for many hours, so they need centers taking care of their children throughout the day. A land worker who needs to do harvesting activities or sowing activities, they have to do that very early in the morning. And these centers address the needs of every particular sector. So, having the care cooperatives led by our workers leads us to provide services that were not provided before. No one was thinking about the needs of these workers, particularly female workers, right? And this is a huge step forward because it led many women to be able to get out of their houses for work and having their children in a specific safe space. And what goes to show is the solidarity among sectors. Having cooperatives being led by female workers makes it possible to think how powerful you can be if you organize yourselves, if you think about collective tools, and if you specifically think about the other people, the forgotten people. That's what has led us to have 15 wonderful spaces. We are many workers at the UTEP, and we don't have more spaces because there are no public policies that embraces these spaces. These are no formal education spaces, and we don't aspire for that. We don't aspire to get that. We don't want to replace formal education. We just needed to cover and address the needs of the forgotten sectors of the popular economy. That is why we've created these care cooperatives offering a quality, loving service, always working comprehensively with families, right? We look at their needs, we can provide a space, a safe space, and creating these kind of cooperatives show the power of solidarity between sectors, and it has improved the lives of many workers, male and female workers of the popular economy. Thank you so much. I think I've got a couple of more minutes left, I think.
Thank you, Natalia. Just to say that it's amazing what you are continuing to do with these 15 centers, offering vital support to workers in different sectors in the informal economy. The time adjustments that you talked about are definitely a social innovation, providing care in very early or very late hours of the day to adapt to the working time of the workers, majority women workers in the different sectors of the informal economy, not just waste speakers, as you said. And this is happening, I think, despite the national policy shifts and funding cuts, at a critical time. You keep going. So. All the power to you, and our hats go off to you. Thank you. And our final example now comes from Sonia George from Seva Kerala in India. Sonia will speak of agriculture, fisheries, reed workers, and women in the rural informal economy in South Asia. She's the Secretary General of Seva Kerala, Vice President of Seva India, a national union of workers in the informal economy with over 2.5 million members. And she's also Executive Committee member of the International Domestic Worker Federation, IDWF. Sonia, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Simal, and thank you for this opportunity to share our experiences on organizing rural women workers, informal economy workers in India and the southernmost part of India, Kerala. So this is an experience of bringing or interlinking the rural and urban economy so that the rural women are able to sustain their livelihoods through these interlinkages. So in 2 minutes, I'll be sharing some of the highlights of the work that we have been doing for the past many years of organizing. And as all of us know, Seva's base is organizing informal women workers at the grassroots level, and from there, know how do we challenge traditional trade union structures, traditional trade union combinations, and addressing women who have no employers, workers who have no employers. So some of the basic challenges that the rural economy in India and in Kerala face, maybe I would like to share. So most of these women, means when you consider, or the rural families, they go in terms of not achieving the basic minimum income to sustain the family. So that is a very important challenge that the rural workers face, and the kind of debt burdens that these people are having, and these burdens are most of the burdens are on women. That is improving a lot. So that makes them suffer a lot, and they don't have any other means to survive in terms of increasing debt burdens. In order to close one loans, they'll take another loan. So that is the cycle of loans that are debt traps that has been affecting the rural economy a lot. And also when it comes to any kind of enterprises, the rent for the space, infrastructure, maintenance, electricity, all those things are very high. and the women are not able to manage, and also decreasing access to direct and cheap access of raw materials, the increasing cost of raw materials, that is also affecting the rural economy very much, so that they are not able to. For example, when it comes to the examples, you will see how it is affecting them. Social, cultural, and organizational challenges, and that is also very important. Means when you look at the traditional rural families, patriarchal structure is very dominant, and the burden when income of the family as part of traditional industries uh, uh, crisis or economic crisis, whatever it is, the burden will naturally pass on to women, and the women have to suffer, and women have to struggle in order to sustain the families, and that means apart from their regular unpaid care responsibilities, they have to look after means to sustain the families. That is very important, and then women are not allowed to come together. That is one of the biggest threats that we face, and the society is very patriarchal. When any forms of organization, such organizations happen, maybe you can have a, what you say, a welfare organization, but when it comes to a right-based organization, means there will be many threats for women to form such collectives. And also in the context of the socio-political and economic context, it's like that many individual agents, individuals are rising with, who can have the capital to invest in business. That kinds of things are happening. And of course, environmental challenges, that you all of us know, it's very important, it's very significant, and it's very crucial in the sense that climate changes and its consequences, you will understand when I explain how it is affecting the women workers. So please, the next slide. Uh, so Seva Kerala. So in the context of this, Seva Kerala has started its organizing work actually through organizing the fish workers, the traditional fish workers, the traditional reed bamboo workers, and other rural economy like agricultural workers in the state. And it has been actually started in the context of losing employment in the traditional sectors, where men were losing jobs and women were forced to find alternate employment in the context of this traditional job losses, and seeking means of finding livelihoods for these women workers. That is the history of the organization. So how do we address, sustain the traditional economy amidst the crisis? That was one of the challenges that Seva has faced in the beginning of its organizations. And that is where the thoughts of this collectivization in terms of ensuring minimum livelihood and also ensuring social protection for the women workers. That is what Seva Kerala's history, brief history, I can say, within our limited time. Next slide, please. So I am presenting you, as explained by Simal, three different collectives, SSE units from the rural economy of Kerala. The first one that Siva has started working with is Reed Bamboo Federation. As all of us know, it's like such a craft is spread all over the world with the small sticks that women are trying to. Actually, all of the women workers we had, they were all mat weavers. Means they had a traditional weaving skill where huge mats were made, which they used to sleep, or you can use. I mean, earlier homes it was used to sit and such kind of things. But in the long run, such things were not having markets, and the industry was facing different struggles. So that is where we intervened and started giving diversification training, skill diversification, design development trainings for more than 100 workers all over the state at different levels. And these women started producing utility products, means which could be used. And we raised this campaign, no, one family should have at least one product made from the reed bamboo product. So that is how we use like food baskets, clothes bins, stands, pen stands, rice strainers, such things which are everyday home utility oriented products which every family should necessarily have. So that is what we were trying to promote and extend the support to these women workers through bringing it into the urban economy through the state level or state supported exhibitions and private individual supported exhibitions, private firm supported exhibitions, orders, taking orders from private enterprises and such kinds of things. And in the next slide. So this is one form of collective. And from there, I'm going to the next form. This is the fish workers collective. So it is something means from one natural resources, another natural resource. This is traditional fish workers, women in the fish workers category, as we know that men are the actually projected as the fishermen. So when we in our common colloquial language, it's only men will be addressed. Women are completely invisible, absent in those kind of conversations, colloquial conversations. But in these communities, women sustain the families. They sell the fish. That is their primary responsibility. They have the access to first catch. They have direct access to the catch without having any kind of um, processing going on. They collect the fish directly from the shore, and then they come and sell in the markets. That is where, when especially during the COVID time, the women had to undergo means lot of struggles in terms of no markets were open, no streets, nobody was in the streets, and then they were not able to sell things. That is where, when we have tried to form the collective, combining both young and normally older or middle-aged women go for selling the fish. But when it happened, it was like we combined, or we brought together the young women and the middle-aged women in the community together, so that young women in the communities, their skill could be used to support women who were selling fish in a very traditional way. Head loads, they go with head loads from house to house. How can we use, like as you see in the picture, in two-wheelers, how can they bring, how can, like the present e-platform kind of work, how can they, instead of going from house to house with head loads, how can technology, how can no more comfortable means of selling fish could be formed using the collective. So that was another experiment that we have started in terms of the fish workers collective. The next slide, please. And the next one is our agricultural collectives. We know we have plenty of diversified forms of agriculture, where we support organic farming, and also traditional products like jackfruits, mango, star fruit, which were seasonal. How do we collect it, preserve it, use all over the time, and how these women come together to make this value-added products and bring uh, to the urban economies, and sell it, access to market, and how can they do it in a collective so that their livelihoods are sustained. So this is not very easy. We know that, as we have said in the beginning, climatic conditions, all these three sectors, climatic changes are a big challenge to the situation. When rain comes, when there is monsoon, no, all those things, no, they cannot have access. So that is why preservation is an important thing that we have followed in this process. Jackfruit,
Sonia,
how could we
could
access?
you
Yes,
wrap up,
yes,
please?
I
Thank
will
you.
go. Sure. So from there, the slide, please, the next one. So from this, how do we sustain the value-added products, and how the collective themselves at the larger level, the federation, have started different outlets in that processes, where they can sell the food, where they can sell the projects, where they can have monthly markets, where the urban people are coming and taking these products to us, and in a very better price than they get in their own villages. So that is something that we have formed. And the last one, please. And these things, while it is happening, and the next one, next one, you can go to the last one. I think still we struggle towards sustainability. Even after no sustained collectivizing process, there are a lot of changes, socioeconomic changes happening, the corporate dominance in the business and eroding social networks, gender community-based economic and social marginalization, depleting natural resource base, that is very much affecting all the three sectors that I have been highlighting, and lack of access to technical skills and digital literacy, that is very much affecting these women workers, and limited policy support and loopholes in the governance process, that is really directly and indirectly affecting the sustainability process in terms of income sustenance, livelihood sustenance, infrastructure sustenance, and also legal and financial sustenance. So These challenges we are addressing in terms of collective forms, in terms of addressing it through trade unions, addressing it through bipartite dialogues. These are the forms that we are trying to address these challenges and try to bring effective changes so that the women could sustain their livelihoods in the long run. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Clearly, so as a Seva Kerala experience is very rich, especially we appreciate your emphasis on the rural sectors, subsectors. And one of the things that you mentioned, the way these collectives are interlinked through the federations, shared platforms, also creating rural-urban market linkages, mutual support systems is indeed important. I think social innovation is also something Marta Elena was emphasizing in her presentation, these higher level unions, federations, the networks. And technologically, the WhatsApp-based fish marketing network, for instance, is an injection of tech support for women fish vendors to reclaim some market space from vehicle-based vendors, majority of whom are women. With all these powerful experiences, examples in mind, I would like to pass the word once again to Federico Parra, to share with us what he has heard. And while you're listening to him, please remember to ask your questions via the Q&A function. You can specify a panelist or you can ask a general question, and we will go after Fede to this Q&A session. Fede, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Give me a minute while I'm sharing my screen. Okay, give me a second, please. I've been in charge of sharing screens, but now I got it. So sorry. Okay, thank you very much. We will make a sort of summary and reflection on how the social solidarity economy has been supporting this transit to formalization, to recognition, to remuneration in diverse informal economic contexts. First of all, something that everybody here knows clearly, and that is the fact that we are talking about the most common form of work globally. We are talking about the 58% of the workforce, about 2 billion people, according to the ILO. And this working informal conditions carried out without legal protection, regulation, or access to social security, often lacking of contract labor rights. And this included self-employment workers, street vendors, wage speakers, and those who are working in unregistered business or informal domestic workers. Let's see a little bit this relation between informal employment and associated labor. Many informal employment workers are constituent or are constructing families and individuals that are excluded, as I mentioned, for these formal labor relations. But in response to these precarious conditions, many turn to self-employment and solidarity networks like family, community, or territorial to engage into productive activities, whether linked to capitalist and value change or local consumption. To confront these challenges, many organized that collectively forming associated labor, a structure without employers, where members are both workers and owners and share the decision-making and distribute benefits fairly. These forms of organizations is rooted or are rooted in community traditions and solidarity-based shared identity, like the territory, like the ethnicity, class condition, ethnical belonging, or even religious issues, but also emerge from some processes of social learning, as we see in this experience today. Over the time, these workers have been embraced cooperatives and other social solidarity economic practices and formers, and are consolidate a model grounded in self-management economic democracy and collective action, more or less. Let's see how this social solidarity economy has been served workers in informal employment. And I want to highlight at least these 4 issues. All the experiences presented above and many other experiences allow us to affirm that the social solidarity economy has potential for informal workers in these dimensions. First of all, improve economic, productive, and working capacity and conditions. Secondly, improve the working condition and access overall to social protection, the recognition and political representation of informal workers through their organization in social solidarity economy, and this transit to a formalization, but focus in favor on the perspective of informal workers and their interests. Let's explore what this means step by step. First of all, it's necessary to set that these precarious conditions, limited access to credit, training, legal protection, and low income are barriers that the social solidarity economy has proven effective to overcome. We see how waste pickers, fisher workers, also the different sector of workers are able to reduce their operating costs through the shared resources, can obtain better prices via collective purchasing, but also marketing, as we saw in the last case, improved working conditions because these decisions related to the work that they do are a collective one. And as we saw in FI1 case, access to solidarity finance, including savings funds and mutual credit schemes, are ones of who open the doors to these financial services that are closed in other ways. The second one has to do with improving working conditions to access to social protection. And in this case, I have to remark that social protection, understood as a healthcare, pensions, occupational risk coverage, and childcare, is a central demand among workers in informal employment. And in response, many social solidarity economic organizations have developed collective solutions to self-organizations, saving and mutual support, and these benefits like the health insurance, emergency funds, and self-managed pensions are provided directly by the organizations, but in other cases are facilitate the access to the services that are provided by the state, by private, or by other cooperatives or social solidarity economy basis. And this solidarity-based mechanism fill the gap left by the absence of formal employment or public coverage. This perfectly was clear in the UTEP case, which provide childcare for other cooperatives of informal workers, such as waste pickers, textile workers, street vendors. SEWA is developing a similar project in India, and FI1 give us an example on how about 3,000 workers have access to financial services that make their collective business viable. Planeta Verde talk about the same with the community bank. Let's see now the recognition and political representation, and that is so important because for decades, informal work has been invisibilized, undervalued, or even criminalized. And the activities like, for example, recycling, street vending are not recognized as a productive labor. And their workers are subject to restrictions. So organize themselves in SSE has helped to reverse this exclusion by promoting visibility. The visibility as a worker, the representation faces the state society, gaining legal status, the recognition of the economic contribution of the workers in informal employment, which is quite important in the value chains and local economies. And the social solidarity economy not only improves material conditions, but also affirms the workers' legitimacy place in their countries. All the previous experiences have to face this role representing their interests. We see how the National Association of Waste Pickers, including Planeta Verde in Colombia, have had such impact on the regulatory framework that the waste pickers are recognized as and remunerated as a provider of the public service of recycling. In Argentina happened the same, in India also the same, and they have created their own unions made up of cooperatives that participate in negotiations on labor regulation. And finally, the SSE means that is a path to a formalization from the worker perspective. And it means gaining progressive access to labor rights, social protection, decent income, and working conditions. However, there are strong barriers, and we will just check some of these barriers. Despite all this progress, the social solidarity economy still face regulatory barriers and operate in contexts where universal social protection floors are lacking, leaving many informal workers depending on welfare programs or worse. There's a big need of alliance between the traditional unions and the SSE organization. That's essential to ensure that informal workers have a voice in the social dialogue and the labor policy decisions. There's also a pressing need to reinforce internal organization, and there's also a tension between market-driven logic and the solidarity values of the cooperatives, and also a big weight on the shoulders of the women workers overall. And there is also something that was mentioned by Sonia related to the sustainability. How to scale, how to grow, how to be an alternative and be sustainable. I want to just to finalize, highlight something that Mansour has mentioned, and I just want to highlight also. There are some in this resolution of this labor conference on that address not only informality and the transition to decent works in this innovative way. There are some key messages, key recommendation, the right definition and recognition of what means work in informal economy, have policies to promote, adapt legal frameworks to recognize the transition to formal employment, but overall recognize social solidarity economy organization as a part of the solution. This issue about the universal social protection floor, the financial inclusion, it's quite important, and an institutional support to recognize and support the social solidarity economy organization as strategic actors in promoting decent work, enhancing their collaboration with governments and international bodies. We need better data, better policies, and overall the participation and dialogue. My colleagues, Waste Speakers has a main saying, nothing about us without us. Ensure the meaningful inclusion of informal workers, recognition of informal worker organization in social dialogue and tripartite decision making is quite important. To end, just want to set that we also are so proud to take this opportunity to announce that today we are officially launching a case study on the experience of Planeta Verde. It is a pleasure for us as WIEGO to make these inspiring experiences available, and there are other products also produced by ILO and other ones, but this one try to see all the different SSE practices. And the lead researcher is here with us in the audience. Many thanks, Juanita, for all your work. We also like to tell you that StreetNet, with the support of WIEGO, will be launching in the next coming month the SSE toolkit to promote in all informal workers some practices, but we have a special emphasis on social solidarity basis savings and credit system, like the ones that we want share with us. Thank you very much for opening this space, and it was a pleasure to be here.
I was muted. Apologies for that. Thank you, Fede. I shall not aim to summarize. We just get right into the question and answers. Maybe we start from the backward order or in the questions that we received. I have two questions for you, Sonia. One is that you have highlighted the strength of collective models in rural Kerala. Do co-op members, workers earn as a result of this collective engagement, higher incomes than those in the same sector but outside of a collective cooperative, like if they are reed workers in a collective. How does this improve their income? And what factors influence these income differences? That's one question. And then the other one is in relation to how SEWA relates to trade unions. Are SEWA members represented in tripartite arrangements involving the governments, workers, and employers' organizations? Those are two questions for you, Sonia. Then I will also share with you, Natalia, a question from our colleague John Bliek, who is asking how are the CIRAs, these centers, financed? Is it primarily through member contributions, self-financing? Do you receive public or private funds? And so the question is around the sustainability of these care initiatives. And actually, this is a question that we receive often. How are community-owned, collectively owned, controlled, multi-stakeholder care initiatives like this one, what are the different financing models for their also replication and sustainability? So that one is for you, Natalia. And then for Gebenga in Nigeria, how can FIWON access grants or financial support to sustain the FIWON credit scheme, which you mentioned recently, and especially for women members to access these low interest loans to grow their businesses? So that's the question for FIWON's credit scheme. And then there is a question that could be all panelists, includes, I guess, ourselves from ILO-WIEGO side as well, resources available to strengthen cooperatives. But how are these financing issues being addressed at the country, region, and global levels? How are these mechanisms or instruments reaching, or are they reaching grassroots level in terms of meaningful financial supports, and the gaps that we see and how we could help bridge them? So over to you, Sonia. We start with you. Just if you can. We are already at limit, so just a minute or two max. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Simel, and thank you for these questions. I think for the first thing, for example, the model that we have developed, from the traditional skills they were using, like the quantity of raw materials that have been used for the production was too high, too much. And the means that we have created and we have been making them skilled is that how can we make maximum products from few raw materials. So that is the quantity of raw materials that they use before and after compared, and the number of products and the value addition that products. For example, if a mat gets $1 or $2, this product you can easily get $3 to $4, and with half or 1/4 of the raw materials that you needed. So that was the big transition happened, and they were very excited to receive that transition, and that is how the income have been increased. That is the first question. And the second thing, with relations, SEWA itself is a national center, national trade union, and all our members are members of the trade union. That is the basic condition to join even the cooperatives, collectives, that you have to become the member of the trade union. And that's where other economic sustainable forms are being developed through the organization. So for example, in the fish workers movement, in the fish workers trade unions, we are the only ones who are representing the fish workers as women. All others are men, and we will be the only one, the women, and representing women workers' voice in tripartite negotiation. So that is where we stand, and that is where we advocate for the rights of the women workers. And of course, there are a lot of issues, financial access, so many things, but maybe we need another webinar to discuss all that. But I think these are my immediate comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Natalia? the question for you for financing of the centers?
Bueno, particularmente
Well,
en un momento de Argentina había una
at
política
some point in time in
pública
Argentina, there was a
que
public
era el salario
policy
social
that
complementario
was
que
called Salario
representaba,
Social
que era
Complementario,
particularmente
Supplementary
para las
Social
trabajadoras
Salary,
y los
which was
trabajadores de la economía
specifically
popular y
for
representaba
popular
la
economy
mitad
workers, and
del
it
salario
accounted
mínimo
for
vital y móvil.
half of
Eso
the
era,
minimum wage.
fue la verdad
That
columna
was
vertebral de
the
una forma de
backbone
adquirir un
of the
salario.
way in which we were able to provide a salary
Hoy en la
for
actualidad esa
our
política está
work.
destruida,
Nowadays, that
entonces estamos por un
policy
momento muy
has been
crítico.
dismantled,
Otra
so we are at a
forma
critical
particular
point in
también de
time.
fomentar los espacios es
We
que el
also
Estado con las
resort to
ramas cartoneras,
subsidies,
con los
but
recicladores,
the
tienen un
government
convenio
has
particular
an
y
agreement, a
nos
specific
dan
agreement
como
with
una
waste pickers.
subvención
So
para
we
estos
receive
espacios,
somewhat
que
of a
nunca es
grant for
suficiente,
these
porque lo que
spaces, and this
siempre
grant
queda
is never
fuera es
enough.
el salario de las
We
trabajadoras.
always
Hoy
forget,
estamos
or
como en un
people always
momento
forget
muy
about paying
crítico.
salaries
Hoy
for our
estamos
workers, our
retrocediendo
female
muchos
workers. We are at a
derechos,
critical crossroad at the
retrocediendo
moment.
muchas
We're going
luchas que
backwards
habíamos
in our
ganado y
rights.
estamos
We're
como, bueno,
losing fights
nada,
that we
con
had already
financiamiento
won.
de
And in
organizaciones
fact, we're looking
internacionales
for
y
funding
sobre
from
todo
international
mucho,
organizations,
mucho a
and
pulmón de las
particularly
compañeras.
more,
Hoy es un
we're
momento muy
doing
crítico
we're
para
working with our
seguir
colleagues
sosteniendo
as
los
best we
espacios
can. We're
porque la economía
trying to
popular
face
en
the
Argentina
costs
sigue
ourselves. The
creciendo
popular
y
economy in
esas
Argentina
familias siguen
continues to grow,
necesitando
and
esos
those families
espacios
of
para
popular
salir,
economy workers
nada, para
keep
ganarse la vida.
needing
Pero
these
bueno, hoy estamos en la
spaces so that they can
resistencia.
leave their children there. We're resisting. Nowadays, we're resisting.
Thank you, Natalia. I would now like to give the floor to Gibenka. How can FIWON sustain the credit scheme, this new credit scheme, to be more accessible, widely accessible for women members? And at the same time, Marta Elena, a question to you, and that's about the education services that you provide to members in Planeta Verde. This is an important part, especially in terms of the being more effective recycling workers. What kind of services does the cooperative provide for its members? If you could elaborate on that, that's a question for you. Gibenka, you are with us. Can we hear from you?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, that question was actually posed by a member of the Fuel Cooperative in Lagos, and I can understand why. We introduced what we call the Fuel Credit Scheme just a few months ago in responding to increased demand for credits by our members. The traditional cooperative mode was rather too restrictive. And in operating that mode, we have to keep strictly to the cooperative law, which says we can only lend twice the savings of our members to them as credit. So you need to have been a member, you need to have saved for a period of time, then you can only access twice what you have saved. Now we have all manner of requests for business loans by members who really haven't been able to save so much, or by people who want to join the cooperative and they're in need and all of that. And so we started this scheme, and quite surprisingly, it has been extremely successful. We've had streams of requests, which we have tried to mobilize some resources to meet. And
Gibenka, you have muted yourself, I think. Could you unmute? We can't hear you now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, I don't know. Yeah, so right now we are faced with a situation where we have this new scheme. It's proving to be very highly successful in responding to the need for credits outside the traditional cooperative framework, where we have extremely limited resources to meet up with the demands. And interestingly, the response in terms of repaying back loans granted to members has been wonderful. We haven't had a default, at least in the 2 months we have started. Within that short period, some have even repaid and are applying for more and so on. So I guess that was what prompted that question. And I think we just need to find some means of sourcing money. We can't take bank loans because the conditions for commercial bank loan in Nigeria is simply unaffordable for our members. They charge close to 45% interest per annum, and we operate way below that for our members. So just like the previous speakers have also noted, there's increasing need for funding, for grants, for institutional development, and to fund some of these niche services which are coming from our members. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Kubenka. And Marta Elena, I think you have some very interesting insights from the education side, but also how you gain public support, some of your innovative strategies, what you did with like plastic bottles in the plaza in a central part of town to show the role of recycling workers. If you want to share a little bit on both the education and the public awareness side, briefly.
Ok, gracias, Simi. Bueno, como lo expresé en la
Thank
presentación,
you.
la educación
Well, as I have already
cooperativa
explained,
ha estado también en el centro de
our
todas las acciones.
cooperative has been
La
in the
educación
center of
integral, bajo
all the
todos los
political
aspectos.
actions.
Nosotros en Colombia
Education
tenemos
is essential
unas
for us.
conquistas
In
muy grandes
Colombia,
como gremio
we
reciclador
have
y consideramos que
we
si
have
no
many
conocemos
uh,
nuestros derechos, pues
reivindications,
difícilmente los podemos
and we
exigir.
understand that
Por
if we
eso
don't
es
know
que
our
la
rights,
educación ha
we
marcado
cannot
desde
fight for
los
them. That is
primeros
why we
pasos hacia la
understand that
educación
education is
formal,
essential. We have
permitiendo
been
que los
advancing
recicladores
to
y las
formal
recicladoras tengan
education, and
acceso pues como
we
mínimo a la
understand
básica
that
primaria, que estén
waste pickers
alfabetizados.
need to
Hoy
have
en la
access to
cooperativa el
formal education. At
97%
least
de
they
sus
need to
asociados
know
y
how to read
asociadas
and write.
leen y
Today,
escriben.
in the cooperative,
Tenemos
there is just a
recicladores
percentage
y
of the
recicladoras
cooperative,
bachilleres y
of
hoy día
the
tenemos
members of the
tres
cooperative who
compañeros,
know
tres
how to read and
compañeras
write,
que
and we
tienen
have
una
3 comrades
técnica en
who
educación. Eso en
know
cuanto a
how
la
to
educación
teach
formal.
them
Y como lo
in
dije
terms of
también
formal
anteriormente, todos
education.
los
And as I
procesos
have
de
already
formación
said,
dentro de la
if
cooperativa
we observe the
enfocados en la
process, the
educación
educational
popular,
process in
educación
the
para el
cooperative,
trabajo,
they
sobre
are done
todo
from
para
the
la
perspective of
formación
popular
política,
education.
gremial,
And
para la
it's
educación
focused on
ambiental, porque era
political
importante que
training,
nosotros como
union
recicladores y recicladoras
training, environmental
nos
training, because it's essential
concientizáramos de ese
for us as
papel
waste
tan
pickers
fundamental
to
que
raise
nuestro trabajo le aporta a la
awareness
sociedad. Repito,
on
reciclábamos
the
porque
value that our
necesitábamos
work is adding
sobrevivir.
to
La
society.
actividad de
That is
reciclaje en la
something that we
mayoría de
have
los
learned because
países
we
en
needed to survive.
Latinoamérica es una
The
actividad de
activity of waste picking
supervivencia,
in Latin
pero nosotros no
America, it's
conocíamos
related to
el gran impacto que
survival needs.
teníamos, el aporte tan grande que le hacíamos al
But
planeta.
we
Entonces
were
hoy
not aware
los
of the
recicladores y las
amazing
recicladoras
value we
saben de
were
esos
adding
aportes,
to the
hacemos las
world, the
mediciones
planet. But
ambientales
today, waste
para que
pickers, they
sepamos
know
cómo nuestro
the value of
trabajo
their work,
aporta a la sociedad y aporta al
and we
medio
need
ambiente.
to better
Y la
understand the
formación
value
política, que les
we
repito,
are adding
es
to the societies
importantísima y
and
la información
environment.
y
So,
la educación
political training
cooperativa
is
está
also
presente
essential,
siempre
and
en todos los espacios
education,
de
cooperative
capacitación de la
education, is
cooperativa.
also present
Capacitaciones
in
para el
all the
ser y
spaces
para el
of
qué hacer,
training in
porque hay que
cooperative,
crecer como personas, como
because we need to
recicladores, pero
grow
hay
as
que
human
crecer
beings, as
también
waste
en el
pickers,
trabajo
but also in the work
para
we do,
prepararnos para la
because
competencia.
we need to
Tenemos una
get
competencia
prepared
dura en las calles
to,
porque
because we have a lot of
anteriormente podíamos salir a reciclar,
competence.
a recoger materiales en las
Beforehand,
calles
we could
y no
go out
teníamos
to the
mayores
streets
problemas. Hoy
and
cuando le
do our
mostramos al
work with
mundo
no problems,
que en
but
esa
today
basura
we
había
are showing
dignidad,
to the world
entonces
that
salieron muchos actores
in garbage we
privados
find dignity, and
interesados
we have founded
en el
many
reciclaje
private actors that are now interested in recycling. And we have seen in the last 9 years where we have been getting an income for the service we give, that they are now interested in our work. That is why we say that our work is in the center of the debate. We consider that what we have done at the local, regional, and national level is thanks to studying the political aspects and the laws and the rights that we as waste pickers have, and the importance of the membership-based organizations to actually know what are our struggles and why our work is important. And to what Simon was saying, this action that you have all heard about, it was a strategy that we had, and it was an initiative from Nora Padilla, from the National Association of Waste Pickers. We are facing problems because of the price, the low price of the weight of the materials, recyclable materials. So we led this action in the center of Bogota, exactly where the deep powers like the ministry or the Congress are in Bogota. And we threw 12 tons of plastic bottles in the main square of the city so we could show the world why our work is important. This is how the streets would look without our work. But thanks to the work of the waste pickers, the city is different. So we are also telling the industry that this is a work that we are doing for you. We are recycling so you can have all the materials back in the productive circle without getting the fair income. So we think it was a great idea. We think it was very successful. And from the executive committee of the association, we have been talking to the institutions that are in charge of this so we can talk about our possible results.
Thank you very much, Marta Elena. There are a couple of pending questions. I know we are over time. I would like to you to indulge us for a few more minutes. Monse, we have two questions. If I can get you to maybe reflect on, one is around the global level financing, and one I think Fede also answered in the Q&A and writing, but it's about why are we insisting on formalization when we do have working alternatives like SSE? If you can help us nuance that a bit in speaking terms.
Yes, thank you very much, Simel. So there are two questions. First, in relation to finance, this is really a global discussion. I have put some details and references in the chat. To put it very simply, the Financing for Development Conference had an outcome document just a few days ago, and in it, it refers to the importance. There is a specific point on financing the SSE, including through tailored approaches. So this is a significant element that SSE entities and workers and economic units in the informal economy can use in advocating for better financing for them. And this text is actually based on the most recent UN General Assembly resolution on promoting the SSE for sustainable development, which itself is based on the UN Secretary General report on the topic. All of these are in the chat in all languages, all UN languages, so you can see them. And if you want some resource that is very succinct on the topic on financing for development and the role of the SSE, we also have a recent policy brief on that, also available in all these languages in the chat. So this is in relation to the first question. In short, the idea is that we need to have greater visibility to the SSE as both providers of finance and recipients of finance because of their contributions for sustainable development. On the second question, indeed, the recommendation number 204 in relation to the informal economy is, and as well as the resolution that was adopted just last month, they emphasize that it is not only about the transition from the informal to the formal economy, It is also about addressing decent work deficits in the informal economy. That is, even if the workers and economic units may remain, at least for a while, in the informal economy, it's very important to address their needs and the difficulties they face. So promoting decent work and promoting sustainable enterprises, even within the context that may remain constrained in the informal economy. And thirdly, as I also emphasized, it's importance of preventing the informalization of what already exists, the informalization of existing jobs and the informalization of the economic units or enterprises. So in a sense, the focus of our discussion today on linking the social and solidarity economy and its innovative approaches to addressing informality is not only about the transition from informality to formality, but is also about promoting decent work and sustainable enterprises and preventing informalization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monsieur. I will not attempt to summarize this very rich discussion, considering we are also 20 minutes over time. We will share the recording. We will share also the chat and the links that you can then use for future purposes, share with the colleagues who could not also be here today with us. I just want to say I can't resist but say something on financing. Financing alone, of course, financing is critical, and at the national, regional, international levels, the pooling of resources, the innovative ways of financing, especially around care. We will be having something on this. How does care through SSE get financed? What are some good practices on this? But of course, financing alone is not enough. Having a conducive environment, including the legislation and policies are in place. So, for instance, co-ops can provide care services in a given country is very important, and support institutions, not just financial services, non-financial services, but also government, universities, and support institutions that can accompany some of these initiatives to be nurtured to sustainability is very important. I mean, the international member-based organizations of domestic workers, waste pickers, street vendors, and home-based workers are very much also about that. There are social innovations. We need to figure out how to do better use of technological innovations, platforms that are owned and controlled by the workers, including through co-ops, collectives, and whatnot. Public recognition, policy support, protection from co-optation. Let's keep working together to ensure that social and solidarity economy can become a pillar for inclusive, equitable, dignified work for workers in the informal economy and for all. Thank you all, and to be continued. Thanks to our translators, speakers, participants. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, WIEGO.
Thank you, WIEGO. Thank you, ILO.
Thank
Very
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Bye.
Muchas gracias.
Bye.
Bye.
Gracias, muchísimas gracias. Saludos para todos y bendiciones para todos.
Gracias a todas, a todos. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.